Hey there, darlings. Welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. It is a bright and sunny summer morning. We had thunderstorms like crazy last night, which means right now it's 86% humidity with a dew point of 76 degrees. And what that means for those of you who don't live in very humid places is that walking to the barn is kind of something akin to going swimming. You can hear the kids playing back there. We got a big bouncy slide. We are in the middle of what we have been calling Soward's Palooza. Jeremiah's brother Robert is getting married and has been planning to get married here on the farm for the last year of planning the wedding. And so we have a big slide set up, the tent, we have the caterer, and we ended up getting our first real rain in over a month, right during the wedding. So we ended up pivoting a last minute. Everybody packed up. We went down to Beulah to our coffee roastery and held the wedding there, which ended up being really cool, kind of funny. Didn't see that coming. I never expected to have a wedding in Beulah, but it was really good. Jeremiah and I got to officiate it, which was awesome. And now we're in between phase 1 and phase 2 of Soward's Palooza. Michaela, Jeremiah's sister, is turning 30 tomorrow, and Nana is turning 90 tomorrow. And of course, the whole family's here. It's the first time all 9 siblings in Jeremiah's family has been together for at least the last few years.
Since my mom passed away.
I think we had identified Noah's wedding.
No, because Tyler and Jessica couldn't come. They were stuck in Italy for COVID.
That's right. So yeah. So the first time together in almost 6 years. And so we're like making the most of it. So tomorrow we're having another party out here. That's why we still have the slide in the tent. And we're having a big birthday bash for Nana and KK. And then today's Harlow's birthday.
Nana says she wants to ride the zip line. I'm going to let her.
She's serious too.
I mean, if it does end up causing a problem, like that's one heck of a way to go.
Oh, Jeremiah. Nana does what Nana wants to do, so I'm not going to stand in between her and the zip line. If she's decided to ride the zip line, she'll ride the zip line. And she's not joking.
She could probably climb that ladder by herself.
I know.
Also, I just wanted to say, Yoda best officiant.
Oh my gosh.
Did you get the reference?
Is this Star Wars minister jokes? You're just mashing it all up?
So well.
Last weekend, we traveled all over the place. I feel like I've literally been all over the country this month because I've gone out west and back twice now in the month of June. I actually flew up to Idaho for the Modern Homesteading Conference where I was a speaker. My friend Melissa K. Norris hosts that, and she invited me to come speak. And then our very dear friends at McMurray Hatchery ended up having their event, Murray Fest, this weekend, which was coinciding with their like annual 4th of July chick sale. Anyway, it was kind of a crazy weekend. I flew to Idaho and then did 2 days at that conference, and I ended up hopping on an airplane with a couple others, and I'll tell you all about that, and going overnight to Iowa, where Jeremiah was, and then we did a day at that conference. And it was fast and furious, but it was probably one of my favorite weekends we've ever had. Would you say that?
Yeah.
It was awesome. I've got like 4 gallons of goat's milk from the last few days. We've been so busy that I've not made any cheese or made yogurt or anything like that. So it's kind of piling up. Today, instead of dirtying more jars, I'm just actually going to give the milk straight to Gabriel. Sometimes he lucks out, especially when I'm busy, and I'll save some and take it into the other dogs too. Usually I get about a gallon every morning, and so when I don't need to save the milk, sometimes I'll put it in the pig bucket, but the goat's milk the dogs really like, and I think it's good for their coats, so I'm going to give Gabe some and take some in for the other dogs, which means I don't have to set up jars like I normally do. Girl, you know you are not supposed to be coming through that gate right now. Freya. Alright, put your head in. Come on. Well, you made a bad choice. I think that was a little hasty. Hey, Maya! Oh. Hey, Freya was halfway into the stall. I just let her walk into the stanchion and closed her in.
Oh.
I figured locking her in would be easier than trying to push her back out. I'm just gonna take y'all through this weekend and hope that I don't forget anything. Last Thursday morning, I got up extremely early and left to go up to Idaho. I actually flew into Spokane, Washington, which was completely bewildering because it was 82 degrees when I left my farm at like 5 in the morning. And I get up there, and the next morning when I woke up in Idaho, it was 48. That's like 28 Celsius to 8 Celsius. So it was a drastic change. I haven't felt 48 since it was wintertime here. And because I did look at the forecast ahead of time and pack appropriately, I actually had to unpack my winter clothes to go to Idaho. And whenever somebody was like, it warmed up for you at least, are you hot? And I'm like, oh no honey, it's 75 right now. Like, I feel extremely comfortable. This is the nicest I've felt for a while. But it was a really cool thing to travel to such a different place. On a little side note, I used to really struggle when we had weeks like this, that we had tons of people around, lots of house guests, lots of hosting, lots of being on. Do you know how awesome it is to have farm chores? Even in a busy life, I find it so regulating. Like, I find it to be such a cool baseline that even when we're super busy, this space is just held, because honestly there's no other option. I mean, you have to milk your dairy animals, you have to feed your animals, you have to take care of your garden, and I just love that when we're super busy I can hedge out this time, and it's just really nice. Anyway, so I went to Idaho and froze my butt off. When I got there, I was by myself on that one. We had planned it a couple of years ago, and it ended up being a really, really sweet time. I love getting to go meet viewers. I tell people this, and people still come up and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, this must be weird, or this must, like, they think they're bothering me, like when they stop me at conferences and they're like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you, and I'm like, you're what I came for. I love to meet viewers, because so much of what I do, I'm by myself. I mean, like right now, me and Virgie here doing our thing in the barn, but there's nobody else here to have a conversation with. And I turn the camera on, and I know that this is going to reach a lot of people. I know that I'm connecting with a lot of people. I read my comments. I'm still very engaged with my audience. But something about being able to like look at people and touch them and hug them and hear from them in person, it really anchors all this time I spend creating alone. I get to the conference there in Coeur d'Alene. The night before, there's like a speaker dinner, and I walked in and was very nervous. I still do feel very nervous in social settings, especially when I'm on my own. But I ended up meeting some new friends while I was there and sitting down at a table with a handful of men who are all in their 60s, at least, and they have done careers. I mean, I sat down and I was talking to Joel Salatin, and a couple of other gentlemen came and sat down and had done like careers as herbal veterinarians and naturopaths, and there was a gentleman that, I mean, has grown up in the Amish community, and I just sat and listened. And I was talking to a friend of mine that night, and I was like, you know, I think it would have been worth traveling across the country just to listen in on that conversation. It was just extremely rich to just sit and listen to this conversation, especially listening to people who have been doing the things that I have learned to do, you know, like within the last 10 years of my life, but they did it career. They've done it longer than I've been alive. And like, just overhearing conversations like that are so valuable. I love being a fly on the wall, and oftentimes, you know, when you're traveling somewhere as a speaker and people want to hear from you, you don't get to be a fly on the wall. I mean, you're the one that's talking. And I really loved getting to start that conference and start this weekend kind of sitting and doing a lot of listening to people who know a heck of a lot more than I do. That is a good thing to me. So the next morning I get up and of course I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. That's when I'm in the West Coast, like I'm lucky to get to sleep into the 4 o'clock hour. Usually I'll even wake up before that because I'm on Eastern time and I wake up at home usually in the 5 o'clock hour, so you can do that math. Went and got some breakfast, had a really bad headache and ended up kind of shaking that off and showed up at the conference. The minute I walk in, the first building right there, I hear a voice coming out of this building on the microphone, you know, and I knew that Mary of Mary's Nest was the one speaking in there. I recognized her voice. She's amazing, and I have so adored her content over the years. I think that I found her channel when it was like maybe less than 20 or 30,000 subscribers, and of course she's got a really large channel now, but she just very lovingly shares information about like nourishing food. And I went in, took lots of notes during her talk. What I got to listen to of it, I ended up having to leave out early to be at my own talk. But it was just really sweet. Later we got to catch up. I got to hug her and chat with her just a little bit. But she's amazing. If you're not following her, I'm going to put links to just everybody that I talk about in this. She's definitely a person that if you're looking to do a lifestyle like this, she's got so much to offer. And even if you're not, even if you just want to eat better, she's your girl. Virgie takes forever, so we're going to have to wait for her for a minute. Oh, Miss Avocado went on a little adventure last night. Did you just want to be a traveler? The bottom fell out, storm started. We're trying to hustle to get everything ready for the wedding. We make the decision we're going to move down to Beulah. So everybody loads up, we grab all the decor, we grab all the table, like all the stuff, and call the caterer, tell them to go there instead. And we go to Beulah. We get there, and Avocado had sought refuge from the storm on the spare tire under Jeremiah's truck. And she had ridden the 13 miles down the road to Beulah with us. So Avocado attended the wedding last night and then came home being held by a child in the truck. Oh, that was like, oh man, I hope that doesn't happen again. I'm glad she didn't get hurt, but really I think it was just an unusual circumstance. It was just raining so hard and storming, and she probably got under the truck, and yeah, we'll have to double check for that in the future. So I was trying to be very mindful of the fact that I had like a marathon of a weekend, and my first day after the homesteading conference, I literally was in bed by 6 o'clock. So I finished that, went to bed early. I was trying to maintain some semblance of my internal clock because I knew I was going to wake up really early again the next day. The second day of the conference was just as good as the first. There was a last minute cancellation, and Melissa asked me if I could pick up that time slot and speak. And I told her, I was like, girl, I can always talk. Being long-winded is a double-edged sword. I know it's not for everybody, but the benefit is if there's a time slot that needs to be filled, I can fill it. But I ended up being able to kind of do a heart talk and really share from a place of, I guess, more along the lines of what you see on like my devotional videos. And it was so fun to get to share that, and also the response. What I love the most about, I'm not a huge fan of public speaking. I actually get very nervous. These kinds of things cost a lot as far as my comfort zone, but they're so rich and so worth it. And like I said, it gives me that connection and ability to actually heart to heart with the people who are making this whole life possible for me. So I love that. And what I love about being able to get to share from the vulnerable place of like a heart talk of like, hey, here's what I've been going through. Here's what I have learned. And here's the tools that I have that I can share with you. Is the response afterwards is just so rich. Like getting to actually feel deep emotion with the people who have supported us and getting to hug them and have that like really precious human connection. It means so much to me. But at the end of that day, actually have a viewer turned friend, I guess I would say. So many of our friends came from being viewers, so at this point there are people in our life that are such staple pieces in our life that I forget that I met them through YouTube. So Kylie Gray I met through, you know, YouTube. I think it's been 5 or so years ago. I can't remember exactly when we first communicated, but it's been a while ago. She has a channel called Black, White, and the Grays, and when I first walked in and I went into Mary's talk, Kylie and her sister Bethany were sitting there, and they waved me over. I sat with them. Thanks for the milk. Thank you, ma'am. And I ended up just making plans with them to go have some dinner after the conference was over. And that was really awesome. Just getting to like really go deep with them. I ended up going and hanging out at their condo because I was flying out at midnight and I was of course checked out of my hotel. And so they had mercy on me and hosted me well. And we had great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to kind of go deep with them. Another highlight of that conference is there were a handful of viewers that I ended up getting to spend, I don't know, a couple hours with, just sitting down and having like a really deep conversation. Kim, one of like a viewer that's just been here forever, she came up and I when I saw her name tag, I'm like, oh, hey. It's one of the really cool things about staying engaged. When I became a content creator, like one of the things that a lot of people told me is like, don't read your comments, like just basically to disconnect. And there have definitely been times I've had to take a break, especially when the division in our culture is like at a peak. So like during COVID, there were some hard times that I just couldn't engage because there was so much accusation being thrown around. And you know, during elections and stuff like that, it tends to come out a little bit more. But now I have experienced the reward of not disconnecting. And so when I have a viewer that comes up to me that's literally been commenting on my life and the things I've been sharing for 6 years, yeah, I recognize the name. And yeah, I recognize, oh, this is someone who has cared and supported us. And I got to spend some time with them. I got to go hang out with my friend Deb. She's another viewer turned friend that has just been with us for so long. And when I do go visit places, I try to strike a balance. I mean, obviously I'm being hired to be there to speak and I need to be present for the event. And then sometimes I have friends or family or fellow content creators that I do spend some time with. But I usually do try to like reach out and connect with the people who've been with us because, you know, I mean it when I tell y'all that I love you and you're my friends. So hanging out with the girls was really awesome, getting to meet their husbands and getting to know them on a deeper level. And then I went to the airport. My flight left out at midnight. I was actually questioning what in the world did I sign up for, because I do not do well without my sleep. And I was like, what did I say yes to? But I get to the airport, I meet up with Daniel Salatin and Ann Briggs. Hey guys, 4:40 something. It's just a delightful time to be walking through O'Hare. and she's Ann of all trades on social media. She's got YouTube and all of that. I found Ann for the first time, I don't know, probably before I had YouTube. I connected with her on Instagram. And Daniel, you know, we've been at the same events multiple times. His dad's Joel, and he comes and speaks at different things. But with both of those individuals, I value what they teach, I value what they bring to the table, but usually when we're in the same places, we're doing our own thing. And I've likened it before, when you are a content creator like in a space and in a niche, with the other content creators in that space, it's kind of like working in the same office building. Where you know people, you know of them, and you may have had some interactions with them, especially at like a dinner or a party or something like that. But you don't really know them. Like, you haven't had any time to like really get to know them on an actual deep friend level. It's so funny to me because the overnight flight was the thing I was dreading most about this weekend. Having to push through and travel and potentially not being rested at the second conference, I was very, very anxious about that. And every time I would think about it and I would have a thought like, oh, this is going to be miserable, I would stop and be like, no, this is an incredible opportunity. I'm so thankful that this is my life. And I was literally having to like take hold of those thoughts because I was psyching myself out. And I was like, I'm going to make it miserable if I do not get a hold of the way I'm thinking about it. In retrospect, that was one of the most precious parts of this trip. And I think it's amazing that so often the things that we dread the most can potentially have like the greatest gift and reward for us. And getting that time, we were exhausted, but getting that time to really get to know Daniel and Anne, I would do it over again in a heartbeat. It was worth being tired. It was worth pushing. It was just completely worth it. It was so good. We laughed a lot about it. We joked a lot about it. I did not sleep much on the flight at all. We ended up going to sleep. I mean, it's like 5 a.m. and we find this like deserted corridor, which is kind of the terminal where our flight is going to be, and just kind of tuck away on the floor to go to sleep. I think I put my headphones in and I think I fell asleep for about an hour, and when I woke up I stretched out and accidentally kicked somebody and sat up, and there was like no less than 250 people around me, and I'm just straight up sleeping right on the floor holding my purse. I was so disoriented. So that was like my night of sleep, was an hour on the floor of O'Hare. So we ended up catching our next flight, flying the rest of the way to Des Moines, Iowa, literally freshening up in the bathroom of the airport, getting in the rental car, and driving the rest of the way over to Murray Fest. Come along, Winnie. Come on, Winnie. So we pull up to the fairgrounds there in Webster City, Iowa for Murray Fest. Maya was waiting for me in the parking lot, and he told me as soon as I got there, hey, Charles Dowding is waiting to meet you. And I did a whole other video kind of like going into depth about meeting Charles. I had originally sat down thinking I was going to shoot like this whole story in one, but that was just an extremely significant thing for me, and I had to dedicate a whole video to it. So that's my last video, if you haven't seen it, where I talk about kind of what it was like to meet Charles. But he was precious. Yes, I fangirled. Everybody asked me, did you cry? And I did. I wasn't embarrassed though, because after spending a couple of days with people coming up and kind of having that same reaction with me, it really just more gave me the perspective of what was going on in other people. Now, I have a theory about fangirling and having that overwhelming emotion when you meet a person that you have primarily interacted with through watching them on a screen. I don't think it really necessarily has anything to do with like being a fan or anything like that. I actually think, because I feel the same way when I get to spend time with my friends that I don't often see in person, that I mostly like see their videos or interact with them through texting or through FaceTime or something like that. When I get to see them like in the flesh, I feel overwhelmed with emotion. And I think that there's something really special about having the opportunity for reciprocity in a relationship that usually doesn't have that. And I did just get so overwhelmed with emotion when I met Charles, because he was real and he was right there in front of me, and I've spent so much time learning from him from the other side of the world and listening to him talk, and even responding in my head or responding out loud and he can't hear me, that being able to just actually face-to-face interact, it is overwhelming in a really great way. So that was definitely awesome. I did go more into depth than that on the other video. I got to listen to him talk. He talked about compost.
And it's such a key part of good gardening. It's not only no dig.
I took lots of notes. Jeremiah leaned over halfway through the talk and was like, hey, I'll build you compost bins like that. And I'm like, you're so good. How did you know that's exactly what I'm thinking about right now? It was just really awesome. I got to do a book signing, and then Maya and I were able to speak together to close out that conference. So we were really only at that conference. I was only there for that afternoon. So many viewers stand out to me that I got to talk to and hear stories from. And I feel like to start listing them off, I'm going to forget somebody that was just super significant. But I met Arabella, which is a 15-year-old girl up in Idaho that was a writer. And when I get to meet young people who are into this lifestyle, it gives me so much hope and encouragement. I met Triss, who is an amazing musician. She had just released her new single, which was a Homestead anthem, and she makes worship music and talks a lot about the garden and stuff like that. I'll put a link to her music. She's on all the platforms, and I have been listening to her stuff since I got home. I met Mama Jean, who shared zucchini recipes with me, and Christina. We got to pray together, and I mean, there are so many. I feel like I came home with just my heart exploding from people who came and shared their heart vulnerably with me. I mean, what a gift. So Murray Fest ended after we spoke with a concert. I always love getting to hear Rory Feek make music, and that was really special. Again, got to sit around a table with viewers and just hear their hearts. So many conversations really stood out. I feel like I could just keep listing people off, but it was just so good. So after all of that, we went back to our hotel. I was so dead on my feet, having slept, 60 minutes out of like the last 36 hours. And I walk in, and so many of our precious friends that we work in the same office building together are all just sitting down in the lobby of this hotel. People that I just adore getting to have the time with, and of course I got a second wind. So we sat down there, had some really great conversation. By the time I laid down in the bed, I think I fell asleep somewhere between my sitting on the bed and then my head hitting the pillow. It was somewhere in there. I was just completely out. The goats have been staying in the barn even though I've got it open for them to go out. This is so hot. Bless their hearts. I can't blame them. Ah, perfect timing, Sowards. Actually, hilariously, I call Jeremiah Sowards. That's just, I always have. And it's convenient, whenever we're like at a gathering or something and I need to holler at my kids, I'm like, Sowards, come on. Well, I said something to him the other day. I called it out, Sowards, across the kitchen. Our whole family's here. And I realized that there were like 14 people that turned their head because we're all Sowards here. So I thought that was funny. So I have caught them up on my experience of the weekend up until the last day. So on the last day, McMurray had their chick sale. Basically, they can't ship chicks that week, so they sell them in person and let people come. And it was so funny. They essentially set up a chick buffet, and people could come in and grab a box and fill their box. And we just walked around that and answered questions about chickens and turkeys and breeds. And I made
some t-shirts.
Yeah, I made some little chick friends, which actually I think there are now 2 chicks named Jess out there. People got my little chick friend. I like to put them on their back and rub their belly till they fall asleep. So sweet. So we got lots of chickie snuggles. Then that afternoon we got to go out to my friend Ruth Ann Zimmerman's house. That was a really sweet treat. She's another one that when I met her, we were both touching each other and being like, you're real. You're a real person. You're real. And it was probably about an hour away. It was nice because we got some time together in the car to kind of unwind and catch up. Mm-hmm. Man, the Zimmerman family is so cool. Their story is amazing. I loved getting to meet Ruth Ann's family because she and I have interacted quite a bit working in the same space online. But she has such a cool place, beautiful. They're doing an amazing thing and growing their food, but I love the way that she teaches. Not just, she teaches lots of like recipes and homestead stuff. I've learned a lot from her, but I love the way she models motherhood. It's just really awesome.
She's got adult kids or now having kids. She's got younger kids. I mean, their property was beautiful.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And I'm glad you got to meet her family too. Jeremiah doesn't connect with people as well like online, but face to face he does.
I don't have any internet friends.
Yeah.
Jessica has internet friends everywhere.
I do. I collect people.
Now, if they ever come out to the farm, like
once you make the initial in-person connection, then you do okay with keeping up with people. But you have a harder time like connecting with people.
But I have to sit and have a conversation. We have to like actually get to know each other,
right,
face to face. That's just how I work.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can't remember how many conferences I've been at with, let's say, Daniel Salatin, and never sat and talked with him until this conference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I like that guy.
Yeah, so it's really awesome. So we enjoyed that, getting to go see her beautiful place. And then we went over to Tom and Ashley. So Tom is the president and co-owner of McMurray Hatchery, one of our very close friends that has developed over the years. We got to spend some great time with them. So what would you say, so that's kind of like the weekend in a whole of what happened, actually, like the events. However, I feel like this was an incredibly significant weekend as far as like in my heart.
Yeah.
And I know that you felt the same way. So what would you say like your takeaway from the weekend was?
I would say that it definitely added some strength to just the already established foundation of our friendship with Tom and Ashley and their family. I think it reinforced just our bonds for what we're doing together, what we envisioned, which I think was just important. It was honestly my first time going to their place. They've always come to South Carolina, so I've had Tom explain to me his farm, but actually getting to see it, he's got one of the coolest cathedral style barns and like silos, and like I just let him take me around and talk about all his plans for his different places, and it feels a lot like mine. I'm like, oh, I've got all these grandiose plans, like, and we'll get them done. Just, you know, we don't know when because of our jobs and children and all the same stuff. So that was good, but then also just, it was the first time I ever went to a conference without Jess. You know, I can't travel by myself. I am an adult, but I usually don't go to homesteading or any kind of conferences unless we're going together. But I decided to go. Actually, Tom was like, hey, do you want to come out before Jessica flies in and just like help me hang out? And I was like, yeah, I do want to do that.
That was really cool to get to see you getting tagged in photos and see you engaging with people.
Without you being there?
Yeah. That's outside your comfort zone, I would say.
Usually.
But you did awesome. So now you're more comfortable with it.
Pretty comfortable.
I definitely do feel more comfortable when we get to do conferences together. That's actually one of the things that we kind of took away from this, was we want to get some structure in place to be able to do more events together and to bring our children. I think for me, one thing that kind of clicked, which is probably why it felt so significant to me. I've always known the value of like homesteading conferences and events and stuff like that as far as community building for the people who are attending. Because this life can be very isolating, and for us now, like, we don't feel isolated because we homestead. I mean, I'm mentioning we've made all of these relationships through homesteading, through YouTube, through what we do. We've been doing this long enough now that oftentimes I'll like assess who all I've talked to in a day, and mostly I'm talking to homesteaders. Like, our community in that vein is very rich. But I very vividly remember a time where we were the crazy ones, where we had nobody to connect with, we had nobody to share information with, and honestly, like, we learned to homestead on the internet. Like, I hear people sometimes be a little mocking of internet homesteaders, but I learned to pressure can on FaceTime with somebody I met on Instagram. Like, I didn't have a granny to teach me this stuff. I didn't have a neighbor that I could go over and learn from. And now our life has changed that we actually do have neighbors we can go learn from. And I do have people in my life that I can learn from. But there was a period that I didn't. And I learned all of my traditional skills from other people kind of my age that had kind of bumbled through it themselves. And hooking up occasionally with somebody, you know, you got your Ruth Ann's who literally grew up in a community where they did so much of this stuff. She has a lot of first-hand knowledge. I'm so glad she's turning on the camera and sharing it with people. But the thing with the conferences is, like, it's really awesome for people to be able to make friends and feel normal.
Yeah.
But for me, the aha for me was how much value it has for me. Because I don't go to Homestead conferences to feel normal. Like I said, our community is super rich.
Does that feel normal at home?
I mean, like, we're surrounded by this being the normal way of living. But I think maybe it was just like the juxtaposition of like meeting people and then meeting Charles and the emotion that evoked in me and making new friends and going deeper with old friends. And there was just, I saw just how valuable it was.
I don't know, seeing people get touched by something that you've invested in that you don't see through a camera.
Yeah.
Like, people come just so emotionally available.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Huge. I mean, we go like our whole life going through engaging with people who are largely closed down. And we stay largely closed down. I mean, that's just like human nature. Is I think that because of the crazy world we live in, so many of us just live protecting ourselves. And it is so humbling to go into a place because we have the rapport, because we turn on the camera, because we came vulnerably. People come vulnerably. And to just spend like an entire weekend where you're engaging with people and you're actually like feeling your hearts connect. You don't get that.
And then you get overloaded with it because it's just so much.
And then, yeah, I'm a blubbering mess. Like, I am just an emotional puddle by the end of weekends like that. But then it's super sweet. Like, it's really good. That's kind of what I was talking about with Anna and Daniel, like, going on that over. Like, would we have been able to connect and, like, really, like, share our hearts had we not been just torn open and completely exhausted? And I think it's really cool when, as humans, we decide, like, I want real relationship. That's what this weekend felt like to me. I felt like we got to experience so many different levels and touch points of real relationship.
No, that's true. Because, you know, like I said, when different layers, like you said, are levels, you know, with people that we've connected with, you know, but then also, like, with Tom, you know.
I know, but I'm even looking at that. Like, they're some of our best friends. And, like, we would not have even met them had we not done YouTube.
Or gone to conferences.
Yeah, we met them in 2018. Like, our first year really doing this, we met Tom out in California at a conference.
The Seed conference.
The Seed Expo, yeah. And I don't know. It's just, I still feel like we're maybe unpacking. One of the things that we've been talking about really wanting to do together, and like with everything we're doing, is I want to focus more on relationship. I mean, ultimately, that's what permaculture is. It's the relationship of all things. You're going to start stewarding animals. You're going to start growing in your garden. Like, you have got to become relationship-minded.
And that means with people.
And that means with people. I think so often I think our culture's made a joke about it's too people-y outside. And listen, I'm super introverted. Like, somebody came up to me and they said, I know you said you're really introverted. Isn't this hard for you meeting all these people? And I'm like, yeah, it's hard. But life is hard. And of all the hard things I could be doing, I mean, this is a really awesome one. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about wanting to, in the future, kind of like look at doing retreats and some different things. There was very confirming conversations that happened on that this weekend. And really being able to connect with people in a deep way, because I love teaching people to garden and grow food. That's so valuable. But like, if I could teach people to be relationship minded within the frame of gardening and growing food, that's the good stuff.
Full circle. Because you're loving like a circle.
Oh my goodness. We officiated the wedding last night. Jeremiah has worked Your Love is Like a Circle into every wedding we've ever officiated. Sometimes completely deadpan and not obvious that he's quoting a stupid movie.
Stupid?
Thanks for going on an adventure weekend with me, Sowards.
You're welcome.
And for doing Sowards Palooza.
Oof, thank you for doing Sowards Palooza. It's a lot of Sowards.
It is a lot of Sowards. It's been really sweet.
Sowards Eye?
Sowards Eye.
We don't know.
Yeah. Thank you all for hanging out with us today. And, you know, I know that some people turn the channel on and watch videos. They're just looking for a bit of information or whatever. And that's fine. I'm glad to offer that. That's why we make evergreen content. We just teach how to do things. But I do need you to know that those of you who like come with your heart and you actually really engage, like, it really matters to us. And yeah, I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, because y'all do that, it's actually what's going to influence what the next phase of what we're doing and what we want to give our lives to is going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, why waste vulnerability like that in a relationship like that? Like, I want to be able to engage with it. And we're figuring some logistics out, but I think that over the next handful of years, we're going to have some really great heart connection.
All right.
Thank you guys for hanging out with me this morning. We're done milking, got to feed everything, and then continue with Sowards Palooza.
Yeah.
All right. We bless you guys. Until next time.